Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web. This is Jeremy Gillen for SYS-CON TV. I'm here at 13th Cloud Expo, 13th, with Gary Ballabio, Product Line Director at Akamai, who's practically done 14 of these darn things. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Jeremy. Great to be here.
Look, I hate to put you on the spot, pal, but the thing about Akamai, the reason we love you being a participant is you become a sort of bellwether, for me anyway, of what really is important in all of this. And you just gave an amazing presentation. I think you're the only person who reminds people that there is actually still this thing called the internet, which actually is quite relevant to cloud computing, and you rarely see the word on the slide or coming out of anyone's mouth. So thank you for anchoring us in reality. And then I'm minded to ask you, because you are a good bellwether, what are the key things that are going on in Akamai that will tell the rest of us what we should be focusing on at the moment?
Okay. So, I mean, you bring up a great point, and it is why we're here, to remind people that that little thing called the internet is something that you should be, dealing with, essentially, especially as you're deploying an application and you have users that are trying to access it globally. The ability to have an application centralized and only managing it in that one environment and still feeling good about providing high quality service to global end users, that's what we're doing, right? That's what we're all about. That is really important. That's really the starting point, right? Thinking about the performance. But then once you put an application out into a public cloud environment, then there's other things you need to consider, right? So it's no longer running, say, in your private network. Now it's running on the public network, and oh boy, now I need to think about security, right? So security is definitely something that you need to start. How am I going to protect those assets? How am I going to protect that data, right, now that it's living in the public cloud? What is the answer to that, right? So that is a second thing, very important thing to think about, and something that we provide solutions for as well in terms of a distributed web application firewall. I think the third thing to think about too is the visibility element. So once I put the application out there, data I used to get before, things like application performance monitoring, how am I going to collect that data now that it's out there in an environment that I don't control anymore? And for a lot of application performance monitoring services, you need to tap a network line or span a network port, right? Those are things that are just impractical when you're running an infrastructure as a service, right? So these are things that we can actually help with. We've partnered with companies to get you more visibility, to get you that information about the performance of the application, even when it's running out in that cloud environment, right? So those are other things that I think to keep in mind beyond just the performance element of it.
Right, that was interesting. Of course, it'd be very easy to say, yes, performance is important, but without thinking, how the heck are we going to get a hold of that? So what would be a good example for you of, not necessarily a new business, it could be an old business, but one that, I call you a bellwether. What to you are the bellwether users of all of this that make you think this is great? If they get it right with our help, everyone can get it right. They are sort of forging the path. What kind of users of the internet as an e-commerce platform who do you talk about when you're talking?
Yeah, so I think from a high level, what I tend to see, are the early adopters of these types of services tends to be your technology companies, right? So when I look at a company like Salesforce, right, and what they're doing out there, they're not only, users of the cloud, they're also, evangelists, yes, right, of the cloud services, right? So, taking a look at them and how they're, solving these problems, I think is one company that you can look at. Right. Another, and there's some of those other bigger providers as well, I think you could look at as well in terms of how they're solving this problem. I think the unfortunate part is not everybody has the funds to deal with the internet problem the way the big guys can, right? Which is where we can come into play, right? Yeah. We have the deployment, we have the distribution to allow you to solve that problem.
So is that how that might be a good, call out to viewers, that's one way to think about Akamai, is we're kind of your in-house giant because we have your best interests at heart because we want a better internet. And we understand that you're not Netflix, but you might have some of the same problem set, and then come to you guys.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can view us as an extension of your infrastructure out on the public internet, right? And it's the great thing is that it's managed by us, right? And you can still manage your centralized location, but like I said, still feel comfortable that your global end users are getting that response time that they want.
Gary, let's spin you forward. We can never let you go without spinning you forward. It's November, so we're almost into 2014. So let's just think about the whole of 2014. there's a lot of people wondering with all that consolidation in 2013 whether this is all going to kind of stall, and then there's a whole lot of other people saying, oh my God, if you think that, you are going to have your lunch eaten. How do you guys look at 2040? I mean, do you have simple metrics for amount of data? You must have, that you're expecting to see added to all of this?
Yeah, I mean, from a high level, we are very excited about public cloud services, especially. I mean, we evangelize the adoption of public cloud services, right? That we see that evolving, and we feel like we're at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to that. There's certainly services, right, that are going to be deployed in the next couple of years that will attract even more different types of adoption. So your vertically focused cloud providers, as one example, right, that likely will be coming out and bringing in more types of services, like for financial services or healthcare, right? That's exciting. It's exciting to see that, and to see the level of concern around security reduced for a lot of companies. I think more companies are now learning how to deal with their data being out in the public internet versus being so scared of it, right? So, that's exciting to see, but it really at just the beginning of it, because if you look at the overall budgets, the budgets to public cloud services aren't as much as, to say internal services, private lines, stuff like that, right? So we're still at the tip of the iceberg. That's exciting. We're preparing for an enormous amount of data to be transferred through our network, not only because of cloud services, businesses adopting the internet more, but also too just on the media side of the house. So that's the other side of Akamai's business, the delivery of high definition content, video streams, right? So with that and connected devices, we see it taking off tremendously, right? A tremendous amount, almost an unimaginable amount of data that we need to prepare ourselves for.
All right, well then, so to summarize for viewers in the only way I can do it, what Gary seems to be saying is, that old phrase, it's not the end, and it's not the beginning of the end, it's the end of the beginning, at best.
End of the beginning, exactly. And that's what makes it so exciting, as you heard me say a few times today.
Exciting. We like being excited. One last thing I'll leave the viewers with. You needn't answer, but just think of it from my point of view as an outsider. When you tell us, which remember Google never do, that Akamai has 120,000 servers deployed worldwide, of course I'm curious if it's like that business metric, getting to the first billion is hard, getting to the second billion is only half as hard. Should I be looking to see 120 hit 200? At some point it will anyway, but should I be looking for that to happen faster than that first 120 were accumulated?
I think in terms of the number of servers that you'll see, I think we'll be looking at how do we squeeze even more efficiency.
Okay, so there's that to be factored in.
Absolutely, it's squeezing even more efficiency out of those servers. But at the end of the day, thinking differently in terms of how we can handle the demands that we're going to see, that we know we're going to see on the internet. So probably won't just be number of servers that we're talking about. Maybe another metric that we're talking about.
Interesting stuff. Very guarded answer, if you ask me. Very sensible. Thanks so much. Gary Ballabio, Product Line Director at Akamai. What a lovely man he is, and how much we learn every time. Thank you so much for talking with us, and thank you for joining us out there on the World Wide Web.